Okay, as we're waiting for people that have been waiting out in the hallway to file on in, we're going to begin this very special presentation of quilting business success. We have our American Financial Partners personnel with us, Jackie Paulsen and Carrie Radloff. We are very glad to have them with us. We're going to give just a minute to make sure everybody gets into the meeting right now. We also have Polly Zuber joining us. And Holly, you just feel free to jump in whenever you want.
I'll just jump right in. Jackie and Carrie, whichever of you wants to answer the question is fine. Where I have my first question, but I almost wanted to Bobby had introduced you guys, but I just wanted to say AFP is American Financial Partners, and I've known you guys quite a while. When I first became a Gammill dealer, there was a week-long training where I was supposed to learn everything that I needed to know, which was completely impossible, but we tried. And Carrie, I remember that I met you then, and
Yes.
and even at that time, you guys had quite a lengthy history with Gammill. So I'll start off with the first question. Where are you guys from? Where is home for you?
AFP is based out of Gary, South Dakota. Very tiny little town, population 240, same state as Holly. We're over on the east side, central South Dakota.
All right, interesting. So definitely not like one of these big bank corporation type deals.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And can you guys tell us a little bit about, I'm going to play the part in this interview as the person who does not know as nearly as much as anybody else on this screen. But can you tell us a little bit about your background in this financing business?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start first and then I'll let Jackie go. So I started my career when I was still in college back in 1998, where I worked with US Bank. They have an equipment finance division in Marshall, Minnesota, which is where I went to college, and I started working there then. I ended up spending 10 years at US Bank and then left to join AFP in 2008, and I've been with AFP ever since. So I've been in the business about 26 years. It's kind of all I know, and I love every minute of it.
I started with AFP about 7.5 years ago, give or take. And the first kind of delve into the finance world was with AFP, but Carrie has taught me everything that I know.
She's a very fast learner.
And how did you guys come about to connecting with Gammill? How did you get affiliated with us? Tell us that story.
Yeah, so it was actually kind of by accident. So one of our employees went to a trade show up in the cities, and there happened to be a Gammill booth there. At that time, it was the Gammill dealer that covered that area, and they got to talking with one another and hit it off, and decided to put together a finance plan for people that were purchasing their Gammills to go into business or to use them for income generation. And so we started working with that dealer initially, and then that developed into a relationship with Gammill as a manufacturer. And at that time, there was a dealer network, so with all the dealers of Gammill. So we started financing Gammill machines in 2006. So 18 years we've been financing Gammill machines now, which is pretty amazing. We've been in business 20 years. So almost our whole AFP life, we've been financing Gammills.
Awesome.
So so when people contact you or get in touch with you, how do you help the person who's thinking about buying a machine weigh their different options? Because obviously there's a lot of different ways people could choose to pay for a machine. how do you help them weigh their options out?
So I think, because we have quite a long history of working with Gammill customers, we really understand, the different concerns every customer has. And we understand that there are different ways to pay for the machine. So we do typically have that conversation with the customer and talk through those concerns and talk about the differences between financing with a company like AFP versus financing through their bank or through other sources of financing means.
So, yeah, because people do, I guess everybody's financial situation is a little bit unique to them. And I think sometimes people get confronted with a credit application and they're looking at it and they're thinking, this is a big form for me to fill out, and I'm not even sure that they're going to say yes. And even if they do, I'm not even sure that I'm going to like what they offer me. And I don't know, I felt that way before. Is that something that that's one of the things I think because I've directed a lot of people to go talk to you guys several times over the years, many times over the years. And I feel like that's one of the things that you guys do really well is rather than, oh, here, fill out this big thing with all of your information. Like eventually there will be an application, but you start by just being human with the people.
Having a conversation, yeah. And one of the big things we'll talk with them about is, typically when we talk with a new customer, especially if they are going to be new into potentially doing this as a business, we're going to talk through, here's some of the benefits of maybe doing it as a business. You have your tax deductions for your business. It'll, build some business credit. It will report to your personal credit. I mean, there's a number of benefits to financing under a business versus personally. So we try to at least make them understand all of those so that they can make the best decision for them. Another big one is, if they finance with their bank, in a lot of cases, they may make them put up additional collateral like their house or their car. And, whether they're comfortable putting up that type of an asset to start their business, whereas we're just taking a lien on their Gammill machine, when we're financing them.
I think,
And
go ahead.
we really do try to, have that initial conversation really be thorough as well and try and quote payments initially before even taking that step on filling out an application. We can talk through every potential scenario and work through, those concerns up front before making any step towards submitting an application.
I think one of the questions that I have, and Holly, you may jump in on this one, is specifically somebody who is listening to this podcast or watching us. How would they specifically, the individual, get more information about the financing that's available for them through AFP, for them specifically, and what do they need to go to do if they want to? What kind of steps to begin the process of doing this?
Well, on my end with the sales team, you contact sales at Gammill. We'll be glad to assist you any way we can. But I usually refer my people directly to Jackie and Carrie for them to reach out as long as they say it's okay. Having that personal connection has really helped them feel more comfortable. And that's what Gammill is more about, is that personal connection. So again, it's not them submitting some application into cyber world. They reach out to them directly, answer all those questions. You guys have no pressure on them. You're simply answering the questions that they ask, giving them the best advice. And, from there, it's strictly on you guys. We kind of take a step out of the picture until things kind of settle. We're there to assist, and you guys do your own thing.
So they get to talk to the real people.
Yes.
So, this is I think a question that that comes up from time to time, and I don't always know how to answer it when somebody asks me. And so, and that would be whether, are there any particular financing plans or features that you have on your loans that makes it specifically easier for small businesses to get started?
Yeah, I would say one of the most important things of how I think we differ from other maybe finance options is we understand quilting. We understand the quilting machine. We understand how people make money using the machine. And so just having that advantage is nice. Customers are relieved to talk to somebody who actually understands what this machine does and how it can make them money. We will offer 100% financing on the invoice, which is huge. We don't typically require a huge down payment like a bank may ask for. We can also roll in some of the ancillary items such as, if you need a bobbin case or you have sales tax or you have installation or training, a lot of that can be rolled into the financing, which is nice. So they have less out of pocket up front. We don't require a business plan. We don't typically require anything other than a simple application. We don't require the tax returns and all of that. We call that customer once we have the application. And like Jackie says, we have a conversation with them. Tell us about your background. How long have you been quilting? What are you looking to do with the machine? And just find out a little bit about them. And that's how we underwrite our customers and finding out more about them and how they're going to use their machine.
We are,
Carrie, oh, sorry. Well, I was just, with what you just said, I smiled because you said we don't require a business plan, which is absolutely true. I've been a fly on the wall during a few of these conversations because I was standing there with the customer and she had the speakerphone on and I heard you guys having that conversation. And I thought it was amazing because did she have a business plan? No, she did not. I mean, she didn't have an MBA. She was a regular Gammill customer, but you asked her questions like how long had she been quilting and was she involved with the quilt guild? I don't remember what the questions were, but you were actually asking her those everyday questions that were easy for her to answer so that you knew that she actually did have a business plan. It just wasn't written down and she would never have called it that.
Right.
and I
Yeah.
think one of your comments to me that I really enjoyed was the fact that it's the intent to do it as a business. And that's kind of where it all starts. And with Gammill, we also offer an accelerate program, which is more of on the business end of starting your business. So when you say that those things can be rolled into your payment plans, that is one thing that some of our customers have done, as they have put that wrapped up into their machine purchase too. So that's been a great asset as well.
And this is fantastic. Listen, I'm actually learning as I listen to you guys. And I've talked to a lot of our own machine owners and things like that have like sought in just random places out there for financing and stuff. And so many times I've heard people say they've gone to somebody to see about getting financing for purchasing a Gammill. And the response they got was, you want to finance a sewing machine? And which, I mean, that statement in itself just reflects that they have no idea what the person is talking about. So just hearing you guys talking the way you're talking, I can tell that you have a knowledge of what our customers are looking for. And that's encouraging.
And what a difference it makes in people's financial picture over the next 5 or 10 years. I mean, you take a everyday situation where somebody's adding, I'll take a real small number. You add $15,000 to your annual income for your family household. You do that for 10 years, that's $150,000 that would not have been there if it wasn't for your small business. And a lot of people, the number's a lot bigger than 15,000. But I just thought I would point out a small number like that, a very modest, a little bit here and there on the weekends. And pretty soon, over the span of 10 years or 20 years, you've got a completely different financial picture for your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do that's really unique also is that we've put together a flyer specific to Longarm where the customer can look at all the different Gammill machine options with an average cost of them, what the average payment would be, and see how many quilts would they have to Longarm a month to pay for that equipment. And that's a really neat way to look at it, because you can go back to that customer and say, okay, maybe you're not able to do this full time. You're doing it on the side while you raise your kids, or maybe you have a job and you do this on the side, trying to build your business. How many quilts can you do, a week or a month? If you can do one quilt a month, that's 4 quilts, or one quilt a week, that's 4 quilts a month, and you can afford that machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let the machine pay for itself.
Can you
That's
explain
right.
a little bit more about how important it is to build your business credit compared to your personal credit? And that's why, you touched on it a little bit. Can you just expand on it a little bit, that portion of it?
So our programs, because we're writing it as a commercial contract, we don't report to personal credit. So it's not going to impact a customer's personal credit score as a new trade line. It's also not going to affect their personal debt to income if they have future personal financing needs, like a new mortgage or a new auto loan, because it's written in the business name. Even if there isn't like an LLC or a corporation and they aren't doing it full time, it's still beneficial that way. But then at the same time, it is building up business credit. We're able to, provide a credit reference if, 5 years from now they want to add a second machine. And then we have that credit reference to help build, additional sources of financing down the road.
So if they want to maybe do construction, or as they're expanding their full business,
Yes.
it's already a reference already in place that they've been paying on out of their home that allows them to grow that, and who knows where it will take them, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We do have a question from one of our viewers right now, and this may be for Holly or Andrew. What is the Accelerate program? Can you expand on that?
Andrew, do you want to talk about that?
I'll take it, sure. So the Accelerate program is something that we've put together that is designed to basically come as close as possible to guaranteeing your success in your long-arm quilting business. And we have a ton of free resources, like all the back episodes of this podcast. And of course, these days you can get lots of information for free on the internet if you just know where to go look. Now, it can be a little hard to tease out between the good information and the bad information, but there's a lot of information out there. The Accelerate program, what it is it's very much structured like our new owner training program. You go to the same Gammill online training program on the website, and there's all the different sections and the different modules in it. And it handles a lot of the simple questions that come up for people all the time, like, do I need an LLC, or, can I just run it as a sole prop? Well, what do I need to know about taxes in my local jurisdiction? And how about insurance? And there's a lot of different topics, pricing your business, all sorts of things. But in addition to that, there is it is a 12-month long coaching program. So we put you with one of our business coaches. And so from the very first day that you get your machine and that you open your business, you have access to that professional help to make sure that you don't bumble your way through starting your business. So everybody who's done the Accelerate program, just a few simple mistakes that they would have made that they avoid. I mean, it's oftentimes people don't want to spend a little bit of money to get that training and that help. And I shake my head at it, because That was me too, 25 years ago, and I was a little bit too cheap to buy good advice. And having the advice of a lawyer, the advice of an accountant, the advice of a physician, the advice of a business coach. I mean, these are people that can steer you the right way. Personal trainers, come on, people. So these people are there's people out there to help you. You don't have to make mistakes yourself. I wanted to ask maybe Jackie, can you explain, we didn't really talk about this yet, but can you explain the difference between a lease and a loan? What does that what does that matter to people?
So for the most part, we do offer both lease and loan options. A lease in the version that we would see is different than what you think of for a traditional like car lease. With a car lease, at the end of a certain amount of time, you're going to trade that car in or get a different car and keep your payment. Commercial finance wise, a lease is going to be a lease to own. So at the end of the contract, regardless of whether it's a lease or a finance option, you're going to own the equipment. A lease typically has some sort of residual at the end of it. So most of our lease options are going to be what's called a dollar out lease option. So at the end of the contract, you pay an additional dollar to own the equipment. In our case, or within AFP, most of our contracts are written on what's called a finance agreement, equipment finance agreement. It's for the most part going to be very similar as far as how it's written. The positives as far as a finance agreement goes is you own the equipment from the start. There is a lien placed on the machine with the serial number, but you are the owner of the equipment. A lease is going to be different, where the bank or whoever we fund our transaction with is going to own the equipment until you pay that residual at the end.
Gotcha.
Well, I have a question.
Go
What I mean, if you had a follow up on that, okay. If someone is considering financing versus purchasing out of their savings, or whatever, sometimes I hear people pulling out of their husband's retirement, or whatever. What are the pros and cons? Do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I would say we usually would tell someone to hold on to their cash, or at least hold on to some of their cash, because as you start your business, you're going to run into expenses for things that you cannot finance, and you may run into emergencies, and you may run into things you don't think about. And it's important to have a cash reserve to be able to finance those things as they come up. Customers can certainly pay part of their equipment costs down, but financing really lets the machine pay for itself. Take the cash value, the cash flow of it, where you know how much you can make every month with the machine, minus what your payment is, and you know what you're going to net out each month from a revenue standpoint.
I had a customer that I was working with many years ago, and she was sure glad that she had financed her machine to keep the cash available, because what she didn't know is that a lady in her town who was running a pretty good business with her fabric shop, her life circumstances changed, and she put the business up for sale. And because she had the cash available, she was able to purchase all that inventory, all that fabric on bolts at a fire sale price. But she would never have been able to do it if she didn't have the money available. And that was a huge steal of a deal for her, to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. And she couldn't have done it if she had bought her machine with cash and then been cash poor at that moment.
Absolutely. And then everyone has to look at their own situations, but a lot of times, it depends on your age and other factors, but if you're pulling money out of a retirement account, there's usually going to be tax implications with that. And that may be more expensive than your financing, you know. So there's a lot of things that people need to look into when they're considering all of their options. You know, another aspect that we explain is that if they do end up financing it, there's tax deductions and write-offs you can take under your business with financing, which is a nice additional boost.
Mhm.
So Jackie, could you explain a little bit about what type of equipment that you could finance with it?
Yeah, so basically anything that is invoiced through Gammill. So, you know, any package that you put together through Gammill, whatever accessories are attached and included, any training, anything like that.
Even like a retrofit for your current machine.
Oh.
It's not, and it doesn't have to be a new machine. It could be a
Right.
like that. I don't think people realize that they could finance a retrofit to their machine.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. We do a lot of retrofit customers. In fact, a lot of our customers who, you know, start with just the long arm itself will come back to us and say, "Hey, I'm ready for that automation system. Let's go ahead and add it." We do a lot of that. Something to keep in mind with the retrofits is we may ask for the machine it's being attached to as collateral. Normally, with all of our other agreements, the machine itself is the collateral. So with the retrofits, because a lot of that value is in the machine itself, we may ask for the serial number of that machine just as kind of an additional piece of collateral.
And again, so that's just easy peasy as well too, right?
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
And
And
what-
usually it's a follow-up item that we just attach at the end. So
On those same lines, Andrew, you might know the answer to this. If somebody retrofits like a hand-guided machine to a Statler or an Ascend, is there generally a significant change in the income that they're able to make from that machine?
Yeah, there is. So there's a couple limitations with hand-guided quilting. We have, and if a person goes back and listens to all the episodes of this podcast, you'll come across people who make a really good income with hand-guided quilting on their machine. So I don't want anybody to think that you can't do that, because loads of people do. But what I will say is that a lot of times we're limited by our physical stamina, right? So that hand-guided quilting, especially the more expensive custom types of hand-guided quilting, can be very physically taxing. And so you may, I remember the first lady that I paid to quilt a quilt for me, one of my first quilts. And most people didn't know this. She had a backlog of like 9 months long. So when I brought her the quilt, I had to wait a long time to get it back. But here's what people didn't know. She only quilted 8 to 10 hours a week because that's all she could quilt, right? She could never catch up on her backlog because it's, you know, it's so physically demanding to do that quilting that she was limited by her own ability. When a person has a Statler or a Statler Ascend, it takes the physicality out of it. And people can do, you know, 3, 4, 5 queen size quilts in a day, depending on what you think of a work day. I remember Calvin in Brooklyn that we interviewed on an earlier podcast. We asked him how many hours they were working, and I think Calvin said all of them. You know, but they had little kids to feed too, so.
Well, and we see a lot of our customers who will come back for a second machine, which that's something important to note is we can do multiple machines. You don't have to pay off your first contract to finance another machine if your business is ready for that. But we have a lot of customers who will use their automated Statlers for their edge to edge, and they're pushing through a lot of quilts with that. And then maybe they're doing more custom work on their hand guided. So we see that a lot as well.
mhm.
Question, if somebody gets a machine for their business, but they say they want to also do their own quilts, and so they do some charity quilts, not for profit, is there any restrictions with that? Is that allowed? Does that cause does that throw a monkey wrench into the works?
Absolutely not. You know, again, we are a commercial lender. We need to know that the goal, the intent is to generate some income on the machine. But we really understand that this is a passion for most of our customers. You know, we understand that you're going to utilize the machine for yourself and for, you know, your passion as well. And we won't do any, you know, follow up after the fact to make sure that the only thing you're doing is generating income on that machine.
Matter of fact, I think we would all be disappointed in you if all you ever did was quilt for money. You really should do good in the world with your machine.
Right.
Are there any specific challenges or maybe concerns that are fairly common that you hear all the time from your different clients that you work with?
You know, I would say most of them are wrestling with whether they file for a business or not. The nice thing about our program is we don't necessarily require them to have anything filed. You know, again, we have that conversation up front, and as their intent is to use it for income generation and do it as a business, they don't necessarily have to verify that they filed something in most cases. If that's something that's required, we have that conversation with them, but typically it's not. So we usually, you know, recommend them to talk with other quilters or talk with their attorney or their accountant, or, you know, someone that can help them make the best decision for them and what their future goals are. The only other thing I can think of is just, you know, concern about being able to make the payment. And again, I'll go back to the flyer that we've created where they can kind of get an idea how many quilts they think they can do a month and make them know whether or not they can afford that machine payment based on what they're doing in quilting.
And is that what you use to assess whether somebody's financially ready to finance a Longarm, or is there any more to that equation?
So I think Carrie mentioned it earlier. We don't, you know, typically ask for tax returns or bank statements or financials or anything like that. But what we do ask is, you know, just what is your annual income? Sometimes we'll ask for a spouse to sign just to help balance out any debt to income concerns. You know, to help make that debt to income ratio within a reasonable range. So that is a big part of our kind of underwriting criteria, I guess.
Okay. Go ahead, Holly. Go ahead.
At this, Bobby. I'm sorry, I'm not used to doing it. I think one of the things that I really like is the fact that when you have a good machine like a Gammill, you're going into it with, maybe you're not going to do it as a business, but when you have such a good machine, you're going to be some sort of business, whether you're paying somebody with a pound cake, or if you're just, you know, whatever the ratio trade-off is going to be, just friendship, you're going to knit me something, I'll quilt you something. When you have a good machine like that, it just really turns into something more than what you ever expected, I think.
Well, a lot of times, I mean, it's hard to keep a machine like this a secret, you know, because you let one person in your quilting group know that you're excited because you got a Gammill on the way. And pretty soon, I remember one lady that I delivered and set up her machine, and she had 40, that's a 4 and a 0. She had 40 quilt tops that her friends from the Quilt Guild and everything, they had all brought her all these quilts. And she's like that, you know, a couple of them asked me how much I was going to charge, and I didn't even have it figured out yet. I said, I'll have to call you, you know. She was completely unprepared to start her business because she thought it would take a long time to find customers and all that. But literally in the period of time where she was waiting for the delivery of the machine, she had 40 quilts. Thank goodness for our new owner training program that starts you out with a bang. So she knew how to do the first quilt. I actually did the first quilt with her.
Nice.
So, Jackie and Carrie, I've got a question from one of the viewers. They said, so when coming back for another loan on another machine, and the first one is not paid off yet, is it set up as a separate loan, or can the first be rolled into the new one?
There's a couple of different scenarios. For the most part, we don't typically refinance that first machine. It would be separate. It would be a second contract. However, if it's a retrofit that we're adding, sometimes we'll roll that initial machine in, especially because we're using that machine as collateral. Carrie, do you have any
Yeah.
more on that?
That's
No.
incredibly sensible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I wanted to bring up was to just kind of ask you guys about Section 179 and how that plays into people's decision making. I know it's something at Gammill that we try to make sure that everybody is aware of.
And tell
Yeah,
us
absolutely.
what section 179 is.
Yeah, so section 179 is a code from the IRS tax service that allows a business to write off any equipment that they buy for the calendar year. So basically, at the end of the year, anything that was purchased throughout that year, depending on what that business's income is, they can write off up to what they've made in income in any equipment purchases. So as an example, let's say that the business made $100,000 and they bought $50,000 in equipment. They can write off that full $50,000 and they're writing down their taxable income. So basically, depending on what their tax rate is that they're paying, if their tax rate is, let's just say 25%, they're taking 50,000 and 25% of that is 12,000. They just saved $12,500 in paying taxes.
So, and I think one thing that's important to point out on that is that if they've financed that purchase, they've just taken 12,500 off of their IRS bill for the year, but they haven't even paid 12,500. I mean, they might have made a few monthly payments, but they're actually going to take all that money off their IRS bill, but they haven't paid the 50,000 yet. Did we lose Carrie?
I think we lost her video.
Well, I think she would be chiming in, and unfortunately, she's the guru on section 179.
Okay, well, she gave us some good information on that. We may dig deeper if she's able to make it.
Reconnect.
Yes. So Jackie, can you basically, can you tell us what by-step process of somebody that's getting with you guys? What kind of timeline is involved and the steps involved?
Yeah. So as we mentioned earlier, once you've connected with Holly or the sales team at Gammill and you're ready to kind of see what that option looks like, we encourage you to either give us a call or have Holly, provide us with your contact information, and we'll call you to kind of talk through, the initial steps of the financing. When a customer is ready to apply, we have them fill out our application. Pretty simple online application. Typically, we call the customer within about an hour of receiving the application. We've got a small credit team that works with Carrie and myself. There's 2 or 3 credit analysts that work with us that'll call and go through those questions that we talked about earlier. What's your experience? Do you belong to a guild? We'll talk through any credit questions or any debt to income questions that we have. And then we'll submit everything to our underwriters. We try to have a credit decision back to a customer within a business day. And then from there, it's really in the hands of the customer on how quick they're ready to make that decision on moving forward.
So I was listening really closely because a lot of those banking and finance terms are hard for me to wrap my head around. But what I heard you say is that it can take just a day or two to get a thumbs up or thumbs down on that.
Yes.
And okay, so it really doesn't add any delay at all to the process of ordering a machine.
we try to make it as simple as we can and as quick as possible. There may be some small delays, like I had mentioned. Sometimes we'll ask for the spouse to sign along. So if we receive the application with just the wife, as an example, we may have to ask for a credit release for that husband to balance things out. But again, we try to make that as quickly and as simple as possible. Most of our process is all done electronically now as well. So if the customer is ready to move quickly, we can make that happen.
I think one of the things that I really like is the fact that it takes me as a salesperson out of the equation, that you all do your thing again and we do ours. A lot of the stuff that you're telling me, I don't know that that's what the customer is dealing with. So that is between them and you, and we connect with the customer, you connect with the customer. We're not really connecting here until the sale and the delivery and that end of it. So there's none of that. I like that it is a separate entity for me. It gives the
Yeah.
customer a whole lot more privacy.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. And I agree with Holly there too. It's nice for me to know if I'm trying to help somebody get a machine. It's nice for me to know that if there's any possible way that you guys will come up with the money for her for getting that machine. And I don't really want to know if somebody has, an overdue Netflix bill or something that's in collection, right? I don't want to know the details.
Right.
I think it's
So,
important too, we don't share that information. So, if for some reason we absolutely can't help a customer, that's a conversation we have with the customer. That's not something
right.
that
I
everybody needs.
don't want to know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to know. So, Carrie, when your internet went out there for a minute, we were just finishing up the section 179 question, and something that I tried to convey, or I was trying to ask a question, because in your example that you gave, potentially somebody might be whacking $12,500 off of the check they have to write to the IRS for a given year. And in that scenario, um, one of the things that's real interesting is, okay, you've got an equipment purchase of 50,000 and you're using that to offset your tax bill. But what's neat about it, as I understand it, and I do understand it a little bit because I've used it myself on an equipment purchase. I had only made a few payments. So my out of pocket on it was a work truck that I bought, but my out of pocket on that truck was only a few $1,000s, and I got to take a lot off of my tax bill.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that's a good way to look at what the cost of the machine is taking what you can potentially save in that section 179, and that really gives you what your net cost of your new machine is going to be for you.
Mhm. Yep.
We have a
Go ahead.
Sorry. We have a big thing going on now with our pre-love machines. We've got just released some from our Quilting with Confidence tour that just wrapped up. So we've got some classroom machines. Now you guys do pre-love financing too, right?
Absolutely.
Is there any difference between financing new and pre-loved on your end?
No, if it's coming from Gammill corporate or we don't like to do a lot in the private party. That's a little tougher. But the pre-love machines from Gammill are absolutely perfect, and we run the same programs and same pricing and everything like that.
Is it harder for you guys to finance people if they're just starting their quilting business? Like, I think a lot of times people might feel nervous because they're thinking, okay, it would be easy to get a loan if I was buying my second or third machine, but I don't even have any customers yet. Can you address that?
Yeah, so I think one of the unique things about what we've done at AFP with our quilting customers, because we've taken the time to really understand that equipment and our customer base, we ask, how long have you been quilting for? And for so many of you, it's 25 plus years, or, we don't, although you might be new on paper, you've been doing this a long time and you have built-in customers through your friends and through your guild mates and whatever. So for us, it's not really a hurdle that it may be for other traditional financing options.
My banker down the street has no idea what my long arm is, so I'm not even gonna talk to him.
So guys, do you, are you able to do financing, or do you have partners like in other places of the world? We have a bunch of people in Canada, a bunch of people in Australia, South America, everywhere. So what about that?
So currently we'll finance to all 50 states. And then we also have a partner in Canada who handles all of our Canadian customers. So the customer can still come to Jackie and I, and we will get them in touch with that Canadian lender. But he has financed a lot of long arms in Canada for us and does a great job.
So when people, let's see, are there any other questions in the group or in the chat? I guess I was going to ask. Looks like
No.
that's clear, right? You know, I want to thank you guys for coming on here and talking with us about this. It's something that I know I can speak, especially for Holly and myself, with the number of people that had a dream of kind of like taking back control of their own life, taking back control of their finances, and not being at the whim of their employer or whatever other forces are in their life. You guys have really changed a lot of people's lives just by doing what you do. And I just want to thank you guys for that. The work that you do is really important. And yeah, a round of applause. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I just want to make a comment. So we had a customer come up to us at the Houston quilt market and said, we just had to come over and meet you guys. She said, you guys changed my life. Nobody else would believe in me. Nobody else would finance my machine for me. You guys believed in me. I was able to stay home, raise my kids, start my business, and I have a flourishing business now. And that's so cool. We love hearing those stories. And it makes us feel so wonderful being able to help those customers.
And I just want to say that this meeting to me has been eye-opening. You know, I'm listening to these freaking finance people using terms like edge to edge and hand guided. These are finance people who know about the machines that they are financing. So that is very heartening and very encouraging.
Well, I also want to say that we're a group of people. I mean, I guess I'll speak about all of us on this screen and some of the people on our teams that are off the screen. We know what it takes for somebody to be successful in their quilting dream, in their quilting business. We know, I mean, I got to tell you, we also know what failure looks like. We ask people questions like, I mean, it's an uncomfortable question to ask, like, does anybody in your household smoke? And will smoke on the quilts, you know, affect your ability to like find customers? You know, do you have pets that shed? How are you going to keep the pet hair off the quilts? I know in your guys' world, in the financing world, you also know how to screen out basically just to make sure that you're not giving a loan to somebody where that loan is going to become a burden. And that's a big deal to us at Gammill. And I know it's something that you guys are expert at screening out.
You all align with our mission at Gammill to share comfort, joy, and beauty with best machines, best products, best everything. So it is, you believe in what we believe in, and that's, I think, what makes it such a good partnership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we here at Gammill, we're just one big family, and I consider these two girls part of the Gammill family here.
Exactly.
It's been fantastic.
Thank you. We love working with Gammill and your customers.
Absolutely. It's
So, so Carrie and Jackie, if somebody wants to look into you guys more, obviously you have a website people can go to. Actually, is it financeyourgammill.com?
Yep.
Yep, financeyourgammill.com. or you can just be speaking with anybody on the Gammill sales team, and we'll set up a phone call for you. So,
Okay. Well, I tell you, this has been very, very enlightening, very encouraging, and I know that it's been extremely valuable information for all the people that are watching tonight and who will be watching in the coming days and weeks. So, Jackie Paulsen and Carrie Radloff, thank you so much for joining us tonight from AFP, American Financial Partners. We really appreciate you. And I just want to tell all of our listeners and viewers, if you have any further questions, feel free to contact us. You can get us on gammill.com and contact us through there, contact@gammill.com. And we would be glad to answer any further questions that you have. And once again, what's that website for you guys?
FinanceYourGammill.com.
FinanceYourGammill.com. Okay. Andrew,
right.
are we ready to say goodbye for now?
Yep. Thank you guys so much. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you. It was so good. Thank you for having us.
Great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.